So you go away thinking, oh fuck.
The other guy wins, I go away, Jimmy gives me a handshake, says, well done, we've had a lot of fun, it was beautiful. I go away.
This is what I want to know. You're minding your own business.
I go back to work at 6 a.m. the next morning. Like, I thought nothing of it. I thought, great, cool, that'll be fun when it comes on telly. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from the production guys, and they say, we just wanted to get in touch, we're putting the show together, the edit's looking great. Jimmy wanted us to reach out and say he had a wonderful time working with you on the show, and he would like you to come down to London and be his guest at his gig in the O2. We're going to fly you down, etc., etc. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Hello. No suspicions, no.
So they're not letting you know about this.
They were just like, he wants you to come to the gig, say thank you for doing the show, he wants to see how you're getting on. I was like, that's madness, hello. So me and a friend, they fly us down. We are two Scotsmen on holiday as far as we're concerned. So we start drinking at the airport, like 7 a.m. we're going to get a flight, and it's like, boom, boom, boom. We get to London, we go to the hotel. We just keep drinking. We go around London. We go to all the pubs. And then it's like, let's get to the O2. Okay, because we just think we're going to see Jimmy Carr,
Yeah. So you're not.
So we turn up 3 sheets to the wind, go to Jimmy Carr, and then we sit in the seats that we were told, and I get a phone call, and the guy's like, are you here, Eddie? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you're not in the seats? And I'm like, yeah, we're in the seats. And he's like, oh, they must have mixed it up. You're meant to be in these seats. So they came and found us and pulled us from where we were sat in like the middle of a row, and then they moved us to like the back of the room at the back of a walkway, so there was no one in front of us, so we were just like sat there. We were like, well, I mean,
that's suspicious.
These are better seats. And my friend was like, this is a bit weird, isn't it? And I was like, oh, it's fine. And then the guy's like, oh, great, cool, don't leave, like just sit, I'm like, okay, cool. My friend's like, something's going on, and I'm like, crazy. The show happens, Jimmy does his stuff, we're approaching the halfway point, and he's like, before we go on break, I'd like to talk about a show that I've been doing recently. It's very exciting, it's a new concept, it's going to be on Channel 4, it's called I Literally Just Told You. We've had a lot of fun filming it. In fact, there was a guy on one of the episodes who was a real fun time, and he's here tonight. And the lights suddenly went boom, and I was like, ah! And there's like cameras, and it's like, Eddie, stand up and say hello. And I was like, hello! And he's like, Eddie was on the show, he was great fun, we'd like to invite you on the stage, Eddie, come on down. So security huckle me away through the building, and while I'm coming up through the side, Jimmy's talking to the crowd and being all that, and he's like, Eddie's got no idea what's about to happen, but he's going to lose his mind. Just wait up, kids, And my friend is like, what is going on? Oh my god, because he's still sat there. I turn up to the side of the stage. There's a Steadicam operator. I go, okay, this must be promo for the show. It'll be like an ad sting or something. It's going to be like a Channel 4 pop thing, and it'll be like, whoa. And then I come out and we're talking away, and a lot of it didn't make it into the show because they were trying to tighten up, but we talk for like 10 minutes, we're bantering away, because me and Jimmy got on very well. It was quite surreal. There were so many moments in the show as well that didn't make it on, where I had him buckled over his little podium, just like, oh, like laughing away. I was so proud. And so we were chatting away, we were catching up. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm pissed, way. And we were chatting away. And he's like, say hello to me, O2. And I'm like, way. And we're just chatting away. And he goes, so Eddie, I got to get serious for a minute. I got to, you were on the show. Great fun. Got to the final. You didn't win, of course. Chidi won. Cheze won. Cheze.
Cheze.
I'm thinking of the good place, Chidi. Cheze won. Obviously, it was a shame, but we looked back at the episode, Eddie, and we realised that we never told you how old Ariana Grande was. And it gets all serious, and I'm like, Well, didn't no, because I had no idea. I hadn't noticed. I'm a fool. I don't know how. I had no business being in that final. I had not noticed at all. And he was like, "Yeah, we never told you. We missed it. We didn't give you the answer, so you couldn't have answered that question." And I was like, "Oh, okay, what?" And I was like, and he's like, "So obviously, Cheze will keep his money. He won, but when you make a mistake."
In life,
You got to own up to it, Eddie. He knows all about it. being a silly sausage. And he's like, you got to face up to it. You got to face the music. So Cheze will keep his money, but you, Eddie, reaches into his shiny, shiny suit and pulls out a fake check for £18,000, hands it to me, and goes, "You're going to get the prize money as well because we messed up." And I'm suddenly stood on the O2 stage in front of 1,000 people, freaking the hell out. I've never had a panic attack, as far as I know, but that's what I'm told they feel like. And I was just like, okay, what? And there's a camera in my face, and I'm suddenly the most sober I've been in my life. Like boom, I'm suddenly in the room like, what? Freaking out, and he does the thing, and then we do the bit where he's like, "Eddie, you've just been given £18,000. How do you know this? Because I literally just told you." Hey, we do the whole gimmick thing. Yeah. Wonderful thing. They huckle me off. We go backstage. They sit me down. They go, I'd fill in all the paperwork and stuff, sign the NDA, etc., etc. And Jimmy comes in and he goes, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "Ah!" And then they go and get my friend. They bring him, and then for like 20 minutes, we just sit and have a beer with Jimmy Carr in the green room of the O2 Arena, and he's just chatting away. He's like, "How's the comedy going?" Because I told him I was trying to do the comedy at that point. He's like, "How you doing? How are you doing?" And I told him kind of the stuff, and I'm like, because at that point I had met the warm-up act. So this is why opportunities lead to opportunities. The warm-up act at the filming for I Literally Just Told You was a guy called Mark Olver, who's like top of the game. Beautiful warm-up guy, very, very funny MC. And during a filming break, he comes up and he's like, "So you're a comedian, you do comedy?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to, I do a bit of musical stuff, And he's like, "Have you signed up for the BBC New Comedy Awards?" And I was like, "The what?" And he's like, "Mate, BBC New Comedy Awards, I'm like hosting it this year. Sign up for it. You'll be great, they'll love you." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So because of the show, I had been involved in that, and I was saying to him, "Oh yeah, I've got my first heat coming up for that. In Edinburgh, whatever it was." And he's like, "Oh great, cool, what's your like opening stuff?" So I told him kind of how I would start a set, and he's like, he was giving me tips, and he was like, "Have you tried being like a bit self-deprecating, maybe open with a gag, gets people on side, it's a great technique of like warming an audience, like, because they know. And then if you say the thing, they go, "Oh, he knows too, cool." And it just instantly relaxes them. And he's like, and he was giving me all these advice, and I'm just sitting there with a Smirnoff Ice like, "Okay, Jimmy, okay, cool, all right, that's wonderful." And my friend is sat next to him just like, just absolutely like, and then he's like...
You get flown down to London, you're at the OT, you're shit-faced, you just got a check for £18,000. You get fucking a masterclass in how to do your stand-up, how to build your set.
He's just giving me tips and all that. Yeah, man, try this, try that, I'm just sat there, and my friend is sat next to him, and we're just both like, what? And it's very nice, and he's just very chill. He's a lovely guy, Jimmy Carr. You wouldn't think from his persona, but he's such a sweetheart. And he's like, "Right, cool, I've got to get back to it, boys. It's been lovely. I'll see you again after. Go back to the seat, enjoy your show. It's been great to see you, etc." So he goes off, we get another beer, we go back to the chairs, and we just sit and watch the rest of the show. Very funny. And then we somehow... So I missed him at the end because I went to the toilet, and then apparently he comes by and he's like, nice to see you, boys. And my friend Andy was like, he's in the toilet. He's like, oh no, I've got to get my taxi. Tell him I said hi. So I missed him at the end. But he was a very nice boy. And then me and my friend had to like get back to London from the O2 back to our hotel with a room full of people who had just seen this. And I was suddenly the most popular man in London. And all these geezers were coming up being like, all right, mate, yeah, I own a garage, I'll get you a good deal on that way. And everyone was talking to me. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Oh my God, just imagine fighting your way through the O2 Arena.
And I was just like freaking out. And like people were like, oh, come for a drink, come out, we'll take you out. And I'm like, I can't even, I need to just be laid down at this point. And so Andy and I were like, oh, thank you. We escaped. Yeah, is the right word. Got back to where the hotel was, found a kebab, got the kebab, like went to the hotel. I was like, I need like a fizzy drink and a kebab, and I need to be horizontal because I am freaking out.
Wait. The reason I'm howling. In January, I went down to do gong shows in London, right? And I was doing alright. I wasn't doing great. But after every gong show, I would go and find myself a kebab place and just like, this is it, boy. It's comedy, baby. So there's something about
it's like kebab. A grounding kebab.
There's something
just like
nom
nom nom.
It brings you back to life, doesn't it?
It settles you. And then we went home. We went back to the hotel. We're sitting on the bed. We're watching some I don't know, Family Guy, whatever was on, some nonsense, eating the kebab. And he's like, Can I phone my wife and tell her? And I was like, okay. And so we phone her up, and she's like, oh, have you had a nice time? How was the show? And he's talking away, and he's like, oh, you'll never guess what happened. And he tells her, and she's like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, because I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. That was the point. And he was like, can I tell Ailey? And I was like, okay, you can tell Ailey. So she knew, he knew, I knew, nobody else knew for like, so this was September that we filmed in the O2. The episode didn't air until January.
Right.
And
because they included that clip, I think. At the end, didn't they?
And I couldn't talk about it. I had signed an NDA. I wouldn't get the money if I told people. Like, it was all part of the contract. Like, not like it's all to do with like. Well, yeah, it basically means you can't talk about it until it's aired or you won't release the funds. So it just is that kind of thing. So
I was interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
I went for like the next 4 months just working at my job and pretending
you're keeping a £18,000 secret, knowing you're about to receive it.
And I was just working away and telling nobody. And I was like, people knew I was going to be on TV because obviously, like, I was like, I've done some filming. I'm going to be on a game show. Whee! And but I couldn't tell anyone.
Yeah. Of course.
I couldn't talk about it, and I was just working away every day, like, oh my God. And then it got to like December time, and
was there any customer that you were like, oh, you can't fucking talk to me like that? I wasn't.
I mean, I was just trying to keep a low profile.
Just you wait.
Because I think I was like, oh, if I act different, people are going to know something's happened. But then it got to like December time. And I was like, and they told me it's coming out in January, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
And then a combination of knowing that was happening and my managers being assholes and not giving me Christmas holidays that I'd asked for. They were like, so basically, home is Inverness, which is 3.5 hours away, and they were like, well, we'll give you Christmas off. Then you have to work Boxing Day, and I'm not coming back 3.5 hours to do Boxing Day to then go back again. So all this nonsense was going on, and so I walk into my manager's office, and I was like, have you got a moment? And he was like, yeah. And I'm like, what is the process, not to panic you, but what is the process of handing in a notice? Because I'd never done it before. I'd always just been fired from jobs. I had never... I wasn't aware of how to leave. I'd always just... Well, I'd left, but, like, I was like, what's the formal, like... I want to hand in my notice, but I can't tell you why. And he was like, what?
You know, but I go, oh, this is how much you're not familiar with giving the notice. You don't have to have a good reason. Well, I'm handing in my notice.
Well, no, because
personal reasons.
Because he was
that's
like,
it.
well, yeah, but he was like, are you going to a job? And I'm like, not working here anymore. Like, and he's like, what? And he's like, he put a pen down. He's like, are you okay, Eddie? Like, he was concerned because I was so like stum, and I was just like, all I can say,
drugs. You've been selling the drugs.
I'm gonna be doing another thing, you know. And I couldn't tell him anything. He's like, all right, man, cool. You can work. You can work your 4 weeks, and yeah. Boom. And so I worked until the end of December, went home for Christmas, and then the show was airing in January, so I stayed until then, and then it aired, and I did like a screening at home in my friend's dad's pub, and it was wonderful. Everyone came, we watched the show, so Andy knew, I knew, we got to the final. That happened. Everyone was like, "Oh, Eddie! Well done, anyway, Eddie. Well done." People started to applaud, and then the credits, and then they started getting up, and then it was like 3 weeks later, and everyone was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Me," and I'm sat there knowing, and people are like, "What's happening?" And then the end happens, and people are like, "Oh my God!" And it's just like a freak out. My mother was like, "Ah!"
And none of them know.
None of them knew. The only people who knew was me, Andy, and Ailey.
And the entire O2 Arena.
Well, I mean, the fact that it never got aired, like, I don't know how they kept all those people quiet. That's what really confuses me, because none of them would have signed an NDA.
No, I think
they were just there.
They were just like, yeah, well, you know, shit happened. You can be written off. It was part of the show, whatever. I actually don't know.
But then, like, overnight, it suddenly was like the story, and I was appearing on like the Telegraph, the Guardian,
really,
Business Insider, the New York Post, like every like news outlet you can imagine ran a story about this guy.
Business Insider wanted to ask questions from a musical comedian.
Basically, they weren't interviewing, but they were just running the story. So they were all like redoing the story, and it's like I was in the Financial Times, I was in like New York Post, I was in everything, IGN, like every media outlet had a story of that incident, because it was like Jimmy Carr gives prize money to guy who didn't win, and the whole, like, if I had won, it wouldn't have been a story,
right? But
it's the fact that I failed successfully, and it became worldwide. People were like, "Oh my God!"
That could be the title of your next show. Failed successfully.
Well, I've not spoken about it live yet. I just don't know how to like address it all. And people are like, "You should be joking about it. You should be doing material about it." I'm like, I don't know how, man. It's just so big.
Just tell the story.
Maybe that's it.
I have to ask the question, because this joke popped into my head and it's been killing me. But what are the chances that £18,000 was a tax write-off?
That was pretty much all the comments.
That was Jimmy.
They were all like, "Well, that's Jimmy clear again," you know. But it's just because it would have been a nothing. It would have just been, if I had won, it would have just been always won. But it's the fact that I didn't win, and then there was this massive twist, and it's just such a ridiculous thing to like win by default, or like act like
it's like being like forfeit or something like.
Yeah, like
But also the fact that it happens to one of the sweetest people we know.
Bless you.
And you know, it's
the thing.
If it was some prick that happened to you, you'd be like, "This cunt."
Well, this was it. I think a lot of the comments on YouTube were like talking about that, because I get the thing, and I'm just like, and they're like, "What a sweet boy."
Yeah, and all the comments were like, you know, lovely, great energy. Everyone's bringing up Jack Black, which is, let's circle back to that.
Yeah.
Jack Black needs to know about Eddie McKenzie. He does. Somebody tell him, please.
It's oh boy, it's just nuts. The whole thing is nuts. And like, people still talk about it because some people...
It's a great story.
Like, some people don't know about it, and I have to be like, sit down, let me tell you. And I'm like, let me recount the tale. But oh my God, the first, what was that, 2022, the first like half of 22 after that, every single person I met was like, what the hell? Tell me about it. Like, what on earth? And
this was 22.
So it was 21 that we filmed it, and then January 22 it aired, and like, oh my God, it was all anyone wanted to talk about. I did like Red Raw the second week of January, and like everyone on the bill was like, oh my God, like everyone was talking to me about it, and all the comedians, like people turned up to watch the show to ask me about it, and I was like, I've never been this famous in all my life, and I was suddenly everyone's best friend, and it was just so weird. I was bumping into people in the street who were like, you were on Jimmy Carr, and it was just such a surreal thing.